Hey y'all, Chigwayao here, and before I get into this actual full-on video, please note that I am doing this kind of sunburnt. I don't know how well it shows on the video, but if you notice flakes that are coming off my nose, yeah, I didn't apply sunscreen, so I'm a little stupid. This number somehow reached another milestone, and I haven't made many moves to promote this channel, but here we are? Well, for those that don't know, I've done a story time so far for when I've achieved 200 and 300 subscribers on the channel. And each time, I would tell a story about myself as part of the fun. This time is slightly different because I actually never believed I would get to the 400 mark and was actually right for a solid few months. And when that number was even just like 10 away, the ones that know better kept luring it every so often from the 400. And then someone somewhere tipped the funny number over. How dare. So, admittedly, I've been caught with my pants down without a script prepared for this video for the day it happened. Then I turned to you guys to see what story y'all would be interested in, which was... Really? I'm kind of surprised because the reception of making a fool of myself on this channel is commonplace, so I really thought that was going to be the number one. Well, shows what I know. Firstly, in order to settle this idea in, we're going to have to relate this to the channel before I get wild with it. And what better way than to elaborate on these two video games, which I have the most hours of history on my channel. One that I'll always be thankful for, and the time I spent in it, and the other I regret to have ever known, other than the friends I made along the way. Starting with the one most of my subscribers are familiar with is Omega Strikers. For those that don't know what this game is, it's an air hockey sports game that makes its players try to score a goal while also trying to be able to remove the lights behind someone's eyes while against each other. The other is Eternal Return, which was a battle royale that had its players craft their tools and gear from the scraps strewn about from an ever-dwindling island. Both were considered to be part of the MOBA genre. It's not necessary to know what a MOBA is, and both have a surprising amount of community overlap because of this, myself included. So, how come one is my beloved and the other is my beloathed? The journey of Omega Strikers actually inspired Hope with visible stages of its discovery and learning. Even if the losses and lessons could get harsh and heavy, thanks to a majority of the community, the many hands that would teach, grow, or even simply score alongside on another, made playing the game truly feel like a team game that expresses peak adrenaline and a tenacity, especially at an equal playing field where the game's intensity was more often than not about the skill of the game. Even if the flow of the game could be altered by discrepancies or compositions, it didn't always feel like one that was damned to losing everything that you've ever wanted to have in that time in those moments. Be casual or competitive in the nature of the game, there was always a sight line for me to see where the charm or fun was possible. Early stages of my learning to finding out what I did and did not enjoy, or tasting the interactions of community members moving forward, there was at least something to gain for the better by it all. And what added to this experience, I could still have fun playing what I did like or did not feel like, and actually not alienating the experience of the game. Omega Strikers made me feel like the time I had and would put into it, there was only ups across the board, even if it was a smaller community, less fame to gain, and minimal content to expect from there. Then comes Eternal Return, which once originally boasted an in-depth and driven title of separating itself from the rest. And I watched it in dismay as it continued to hollow itself out and even make the player base even shallower to the game and to each other. The game forced everyone to be in a speedrunner aficionado that must be played without fail or end up falling behind the curve. This difficulty in acclimating new players meant the game had to keep simplifying itself to the point of brain damage so that it played itself. And once the tactical and grim variety of concepts died, so too did the attention spans of the players as they were forced to be lobotomized by the game's directioning. Hope was not visible for the players and instead hate was instigated that politics, disrespect, and internet egos were just being festered. Competitive play was highlighted with such hostility, friends weren't allowed to play with each other, making small mistakes and having unoptimal thoughts were being lynched for, and people were villainizing each other left and right. I witnessed the early stages of this game to its official release, so it is quite easy to say I am probably just nostalgia biased, but I watched the charm of a game be atomized to specks of dust, just so that everything about it would be spat on by each other in the game itself. Yet, what saved the business of the game was to make sure, well, the sex appeal would skyrocket, the game itself be babified, and Eternal Return would become a shell of what I had loved it. with its foreseeable tells of what I disliked worsening. More ostracization for having fun over cutthroatness, more tourneys tied to ego grinding, and the arts tying to tug on my own goon stick rather than having to paint a path that was something worthwhile later down the road. And for what a game considered alive but dead inside, and a future I just didn't want to be a part of. I have so much that I want to say about both these games, but the point of expressing these personal experiences is that there's a foreseeable direction. Passion being raised in one, and then passion being raised to the ground in the other. And it became very clear to me how I had managed my favorite hobby in video games, and what games are worth my time and which ones wastes my time. And these were known as values, the pieces of the puzzle that do or don't make me believe a game is worth playing. Understanding values was what paved the critical decision I made when it came to leaving my first job of my education. A job that could have set me for life on my path and pacing. If I had stayed in this job, retirement was actually already secured. I used to work for a bank, a corporation that let me be an assistant for the services of debits, credits, loans, frauds, blah, 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 blah. But alongside this were projects and opportunities that got acknowledged by the vice president of the bank, which proved I was indeed a useful asset. And considering the progression, I was steadily gaining skills and showing initiative to do better. But I also realized I was changing. I was becoming angrier because while I was passionate about the job, what surrounded the values of the job was proving it would decay me from the inside out. I wasn't comfortable realizing that it was a business first, that statistics and employees of sales mattered more, or that I just cannot actively be a helpful piece for clients involved because of the stifling rule set that favored cold-heartedness. I was just dying on the inside by the justification. The pay was good. I'm a privileged bachelor with low income pressure. The difficulty of the work was low and I liked my team. I had gained affinity and knowledge of the job that it was considered greater than average. And so why was it I would just still feel angry and I would want to cry out in pain night after night? The values that I had were getting twisted, and that had me feeling like another number. A cog in a machine that was going to eventually rust and be replaced. And a place that is very ready to cast me aside as soon as I was to go against optimal strategy for even just a thought of goodwill. The values I had were being tested and killed from the inside the more I stayed with the company. My only escape that led to the realization that my values were worth fighting for, which I also had kept alongside myself rather than be cast away, was because the passion of what I was doing would still have a heartbeat. Admittedly, I still have to acknowledge, it was my manager that told me and recognized me for what I cared about rather than what I could do better for the company. And then came the decision that I would leave the bank and the job and learn how to become a social working therapist. I had chosen to leave a lavish future for a saturated market with several individuals that could take my place in the new direction I gazed at. Yet, unlike the bank and unlike Eternal Return, I could see the hope beyond the values, that the reasoning felt like it was me speaking up for myself rather than a formal paper with cookie-cutter dry attitudes. The person I was in both of these scenarios, it was very clear which one was me. One that actually cared and wanted to share in what I believed in is worthwhile, while the other was ready to just listen to the voices that insinuated an insanity that would eventually take me over. Now, I won't let my objective side be ignored. I made a decision that is easier than others in less fortunate situations. Again, I'm a single guy that isn't nearly as tied to the responsibilities of those in harder places. But I do still believe that all difficult decisions should look at the values they believe in and just take it from there. I'm not taking blind leaps of faith, nor am I all-inning on loose emotional decisions that abandon logic. I'm talking about the calling you think actually speaks on what you are, not conforming societal demand, nor roboticizing yourself to fit in it. Because someone owning the decisions they have before them has a better and brighter future possibility than those that would choose to stay in the depths of darkness simply because it's easier and safer. Your passion could be the difference in making, actually causing the truest ripple in your heart, all the way to your dying breath. And who knows, maybe that same passion could be the bridge in engaging the environments you actually fit in. But that may become left to the wayside should that train of thought be considered too dangerous or just a fantasy adventure. The balance comes from the values. And what solidifies these values is considering what defined values mean to you and to the world around you. Should this be actively and properly engaged in, then I actually believe that passion will shine properly beyond a shower thought. It can be found no less at any stage of the game. Youth, teenagers, or a middle-aged man like me. Hell, I see my elder peers also taking a shot because they realize what passions they have. Inspiration to take passion is real and possible, but I don't think you should have to sell your soul to do so. At least that's what happened when I had finally discovered, just before my late 20s, of what I actually wanted to do. Again, I still wanted to highlight there is a sense of responsibility to be had, and you can't just be willy-nilly about it. But I do believe many should feel that they can take a chance to do what they believe is actually from within, not just, well, what everyone told them to do. Anyways, I hope you have a good one and enjoyed this, but that is my story of how I decided to run with my passion in what I do, in both the serious, in my job, to my future, to my hobbies and video games. I'll see you all back in Omega Strikers. You won't see me back in Eternal Return. Fuck you, ER.